Hey everyone, welcome to the segment of Module 2 of the CGIU Commitment to Action curriculum, where we'll be covering branding and marketing your commitment. My name is Candace Queen. I'm a 2015 CGIU commitment maker, as well as founder and creative director of Queen Creative Group, a brand incubator, and the home of Tabernacle, a creative agency that focuses on branding, strategy, and visual identity design, as well as experiential design. When I attended my first CGIU meeting, it was incredibly exciting and empowering to connect with others passionate about making the world a better place and learn about the many unique ways my fellow commitment makers were tackling their respective issues. One thing I noticed was that many felt challenged when it came to the idea of branding and effectively getting their mission to the right audience to drive the impact they were hoping to make. So, I wanted to share with you a few best practices to champion your commitment by developing a brand and marketing plan. Generally, the first question I get is, what is a brand and why do I need it? In very simple terms, a brand is a promise that everyone that encounters your brand will get the same type of experience. It sets the tone for what people can expect from you on a regular basis. Often when discussing brands, we tend to think about logos like Apple and Apple, the check mark for Nike, but that's just a logo, which we'll discuss a little later on. It's important that you have a clear understanding of your brand before even considering what your logo will look like. When you focus on developing your brand, you're taking a step towards controlling your own narrative and enhancing your reach by building trust and developing relationships with your respective audience. And in turn, that increases longevity and allows for a greater master plan to come into fruition, establishing a clear trajectory for your commitment. So with that said, I want to take you through 3 core components of championing your commitment. The first step is establishing a clear brand definition. Second, we'll review building an identity system. And last, we'll chat about amplifying your brand through marketing, specifically in the social media space. As I take you through these steps, our guiding light will be purpose-driven passports, an amazing client of mine that came to me a little over a year ago, seeking help in building a solid visual system and supporting social media assets for their brand. The founder, Tracy Coleman, is a self-described travel addict. She wants to build a brand around two common questions in her travel circles. How do we make a stronger impact in the countries we visit, and how do we help locally? Purpose-driven passports had an established name. It just needed a solid visual identity to champion their cause and be an ambassador to current and new supporters. My first step was to backtrack and hone in on the definition part of purpose-driven passports. Because as I mentioned, your brand statement is the foundation of everything that comes after that, including the logo and subsequent visual system. Brand positioning describes how a brand is different from its competitors and where or how it sits in customers' minds. When we think about the mission of our commitment, we should think in that context. Yes, we're trying to improve a situation, but what makes our particular approach unique? What sets us apart from the rest? There are 4 core questions that you should consider, and depending on your initiative, you may find that you need to build on these. Who are you? What do you do? And how do you do it? Lastly, and most importantly, why do you do it? If you don't know why, then no one else will, and it will be really difficult to get anyone to buy into your cause. Purpose-Driven Passports is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. What do? They help travelers improve the lives of local citizens in the cities they visit. How do they do it? Each year, they identify 3 to 5 projects to support and collaborate to provide financial resources, supplies, and people needed on the ground to get the job done. And why? Their vision is a world where families are fed, babies are held, homes are built, kids are inspired, and people around the world are empowered and supported by those who vacation in their communities. From that exercise, 2 principles rose to the top. Purpose-Driven Passports volunteers already want to give back, And we also found that the audience that was emerging in the preliminary stages of development were primarily Black millennial travelers who wanted to reach back locally, especially the countries of the African diaspora and countries of color. They wanted to go beyond just donating to a multinational organization and work directly on the ground to support grassroots efforts. Once we mastered this mission statement, here's a bit more about how it manifested.
My name is Tracy Coleman. I'm from Brooklyn, New York, and I'm the founder of Purpose-Driven Passports. My goal is to encourage people to give back and create a movement of people who are making a positive influence when they travel. My mother and I, Kukwa, work together, and she has a workout called Kukwa African Dance Workout, and it allows people to visit Africa without their passport through music and dance. So we said, if they're visiting without their passport, why not visit with? If we are, going to these countries and we're, seeing the sights and enjoying the culture, why not give back, whether it's through supporting the businesses or tourism or community service. I've been working with kids for 10 years. I started as a Teach for America Corps member in Houston. I thought I would do it for 2 years. I completely fell in love with kids, and then I decided that I was going to kind of dedicate my life to working with students and being a mentor. Just by not only you being there, but the fact that you can speak someone's language and you come from where they come from and you look just like them, hell, people are nervous about it anyway. But if you can connect with someone in a way where they walk in and they kind of feel just a bit more comfortable than someone who doesn't look like them, working on them, especially when it comes to, sensitive matters like gynecology and things of that nature, that was something that I've definitely observed through my travels. There was one thing that I wished, it was to see more Black and brown doctors doing service work. An orphanage that is in Dominican Republic where they deal with children who have either AIDS or HIV. And there was this one girl, Mariella, who we were just inseparable. I mean, I cried after we left them. And obviously we brought goods for them. We brought toys, toiletries, necessities that they needed, but we also gave over our time that afternoon. One of my friends brought a dress that her daughter didn't wear anymore. And she held up the dress and the little girl started crying and she put on the dress and she's like, Auntie, look at this. And that, I just will never forget that. I just couldn't control myself. I was like, oh my God, oh my God. Can you imagine just going for a day and reading to students and showing them who you are, you learning about who they are? I just think it's really, really powerful. You have an impact to help people in the moment, which is very poignant. But when you've been able to do something where you can see how it's literally chartered the path for someone's life and future, that's amazing. I am so excited about what's about to happen because I think there's something big here. I think that I'm excited about what we can create together. I think if I go by myself on a trip and I do one thing, it's great. I went to Johannesburg and I brought some diapers to an orphanage. Great. But what if all of us brought diapers to that orphanage? They would never need diapers again. Those babies would never go a day without a diaper ever again, And so if you multiply that by everybody doing one small thing, we can do something big. And so that's why I'm excited because it doesn't take a lot. But all these people that are so excited about travel and going these places and have all these things, great things going on, give a little bit of it's not even money, their time, you can go and teach or read to the kids or all these things that don't take a whole lot of time. I'm excited about what can happen if a lot of people start doing that.
So now I had a clear idea of their mission, what set them apart from the rest, and their core attributes. It was time to dive into developing the visual identity system. At its core, a visual identity system encompasses at least one logo. Sometimes there may be variations to accommodate for different placement situations, color, and typography. Additionally, you can add graphic elements that can be introduced to further reinforce the spirit of your brand. Your logo should be unique to you. and color and typography work together to reflect your brand style and tone. Graphic language can include patterns, textures, photography, illustration styles. All of those can accentuate and enhance your brand. As I take you through the process of bringing this all together, note that I'll also include some resources to help you in the event you're unable to hire a designer. First, start with creating a mood board. I kick things off by creating a list of keywords that resonate with the brand. Then do a deep dive into Pinterest where you can actually house your mood board and have others contribute. I also explore Instagram for brand style ideas, particularly for social media, and peruse Unsplash for photography styles. Unsplash is also a really great resource when you're on a budget. They offer royalty-free photography. I landed on a mood board that encompassed elements of the African diaspora and started to lean more and more into patterns. This drew me to traditional Andrinka symbols. Inspired by the Andrinka style, I created an abstract symbol that includes the letters PDP. I spoke about logo alternates as well. Since purpose-driven passports would be working in a range of countries, I thought it would be interesting to include the flags or shapes of the countries in the logo when promoting country-specific events. With color palettes, you normally have a primary set of colors that take up the most real estate on any graphic you might create. Then you have the secondary colors, which often come into play as text or to create balance with the primary colors. My client wanted to incorporate the elements of travel, earth, sky, water, and also maintain a relaxed, easygoing tone. So I created this palette with that in mind and chose black and dark charcoal to serve as a secondary palette for balance. The approach to typography is similar. You should think about what would fit well for headlines and titles and what will translate well in body copy. I chose something clean and modern. The graphic language included icon styles, ways to format copy, and photography styles. For the graphics, we maintained a clean, modern approach. For the photography, it was important not to create a feeling of desolation, but only share images of hope, empowerment, and strength. All this came together to create images and takeaways for events and a promotional video. While having a designer on hand might not be feasible for you, platforms like Canva and Creative Market can give you a boost. Understanding these core components of a visual identity system can help you navigate customizable templates and create something that will help polish your look and feel very quickly. So now we've come to our final, albeit ever evolving step, and that's amplifying your newly polished brand through marketing. Marketing is the process of creating and managing exchange relationships, whether that be an exchange of service, volunteering, donations, or an emotion. While often used interchangeably, advertising falls under the marketing umbrella. And the focus of advertising is communicating a brand's key message strategically through mediums such as visuals, copy, and audio. Before you dive into your plan of execution, you first need to create a marketing strategy. The foundation of that includes an objective, Purpose-driven passports was simply to raise brand awareness. Audience, we maintained a primary and secondary audience. Tone of voice, which was hopeful and inspiring. The message and execution methods, what are you going to say and how it will be presented, also falls under the strategy plan. Your marketing mix, which includes what channels you plan to use, and finally your success metrics so you can gauge what's working and what needs to be adjusted. There are a lot of channels that can be utilized, including digital, traditional methods like print, television, radio, out of home, and experiential. I'll take you through a few examples that I've created during my career. As you decide which channels work best for you, consider budget costs, who you're trying to reach, and how each channel can work together to form an integrated campaign. From classic flyers and posters to unique mail pieces, print is still a key go-to. It's accessible to all types of budgets, large and small, and getting the word out can be as simple as posting them in your neighborhood coffee shop or in spaces that lean towards your mission. In purpose-driven passports case, that might be spaces that encourage volunteerism. Print and digital can work together as integrated campaigns, with your print piece piquing interest and guide them to visit a website and opt into your email list, or vice versa. Print can reinforce your campaign. If an email is the first point of contact with your audience, it's a nice, tangible follow-up piece. Digital also encompasses web takeovers, banner ads, both online and in out-of-home spaces, such as transit shelters. Budget for these can start to become a tad bit more costly. When paying for banner space, consider grassroots digital publications that might have lower advertising costs. And also consider connecting with mainstream publications to see if there's some sort of discount for cause-based efforts. Additionally, you'll find that many cities now provide ad space in their public transit areas at a lower rate for cause-based initiatives. Social media can also integrate well with other digital methods as well as print, but it also can hold its own as a marketing medium. With social media, you have more interactions with your audience. This also means increased responsibility to respond and interact with them to maintain a solid relationship between your brand and brand supporters. Social media is also a great way to connect online and drive supporters to in-person activations. In the advertising world, we like to call this experiential. I found this to be true with the fun project I worked on with Cantu Beauty, shaping their summer tour that kicked off at Essence Fest in New Orleans. When we built anticipation through our social channels, and then we served a really engaging experience on site. For purpose-driven passports, we leaned into social media specifically and focused on two social channels, Facebook and Instagram. It was much more cost-effective because the two deliver different experiences and range in audiences, but since they are under one company, we didn't have to duplicate efforts as much. When you're thinking about which social platform to be present on, it's really important to assess which platforms will benefit you the most. There isn't a need to be present on every single one. Facebook is a great platform to get your footing in the social media space. It allows for longer posts and large photo albums and is equipped to support a range of ways to present your brand story, from regular posts to carousels to stories. The reach is unique in that it's very multi-generational and provides a detailed advertising platform. The advertising tool uses a social graph and activities to pinpoint those who fall into your audience demographics. So that ensures you're able to make sure your posts target exactly who you want to reach. In addition to advertising, it's a great space for building communities through its group feature, generating secure donation campaigns, and more. On Facebook, Purpose Driven Passports has a growing private travel group of 200 plus, as well as a public page where they share their growth, achievements, and rally for support. Instagram, in my opinion, has evolved into the intersection of Facebook and Pinterest. You can share stories like you would on Facebook, albeit more condensed, but it also invokes inspiration and reaches a younger audience, which Purpose Driven Passports was seeking. And the integration between the two platforms makes it easy on us so we don't have to reinvent the wheel in terms of creating content. It can drive IG users to our Facebook groups for deeper conversations. And ultimately, the goal is to reach this sort of success with each campaign.
I would definitely say in my time here in Haiti, one thing that I love about it is every single day is a success story. From the kids walking into the school in the morning and seeing the smiles on their face and knowing that I'm able to really encourage them to really, dream big. I like to become a big leader and to become a doctor, especially children. I would like to be an engineer, and this is many times a kid wants to be an entrepreneur, a doctor, an engineer, the president of Haiti, but they really don't see those examples. This area is not only for professionals of different backgrounds to help aid and teach high school students how to be artists. The reason why I think that what we're trying to do here is powerful is really connecting our students with professionals in their field. That's one of the things that we always like to stress. Dream big and you can be whatever you want to be.
By being intentional and building from these three core factors, define, identity, amplify, you'll be well on your way to championing your commitment. Be sure to take a look at the resource list to learn more about the cost-effective tools I shared, and find me on LinkedIn. I'd love to hear how this session impacted your commitment to action. Thanks.